When I got into high ticket sales in 2019, and I started doing this, out of my dorm room, and I made the transition to doing this full time. I got into it because I wanted to make six figures, multi six figures. I wanted to get rich, in my early 20s, as most people do. And, I remember seeing like videos and stuff online of people talking about, oh, like write your goals down on a piece of paper, or like say it in the mirror a million times, or like write them down and think about your goals. Like I would see that stuff and I was like, bro, okay, like this is kind of BS. Like this is like some weird voodoo magic stuff that these like online mindset gurus talk about. Like this stuff isn't real, right? And what happened is my first couple years in sales, like I did okay, pretty mediocre results, like nothing crazy. And in the last 2 years, I've really realized that goal setting is a skill set. And if you know how to go about it correctly, you can take complete control over your income, over your life, and every single thing that you want to do. But the problem is 99% of people, from what I've seen, have no clue how to go about goal setting, right? They think that it's just about writing down a number, writing down a thing, throwing it into the universe, and seeing what happens, right? In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you basically the exact strategies and exactly how I go about goal setting that's allowed me to go on, honestly, like a 2 year run where I've been able to consistently set and hit short-term and long-term goals. And I'm also going to share with you the tactical stuff that I share with my sales teams to help them go and hit their commission goals, and accomplish some of the things that they want out of life and also out of sales. So first things first, right? Here's the reason why most people don't set goals, right? And when I say don't set goals, like this is what I mean. Like a lot of the times I'll have conversations with people where it's like, hey, what's your goal by the end of 2024, for example, right? And then they'll say, well, I'd like to be at this amount, or I'd like to be here, but I don't know. I kind of want to set like a conservative goal and then see what happens, right? And they kind of lowball themselves. Or, you'll see people say like, oh yeah, well, let me tell you the main reason why people don't set goals. It's because the moment that you define a mark, a target that you want to be by a specific timeline, now you've put the pressure on yourself to actually accomplish that goal, right? You've given yourselves an opportunity to set a goal and potentially fail and miss your mark, right? And I think a lot of people, they subconsciously, they don't even realize they're doing it. But like after taking tens of thousands of sales calls where I'm asking people, hey, what's your goal with this? Where do you want to be with this? Where do you want to be short term, long term? What are you thinking? Like almost like 70, 80% of my prospects, like they can't give me a specific goal. And I've noticed the people who can say, hey, this is my goal, this is where I want to be, this is why it's important to me. The people who have clarity on their vision, like those are always the people who go on and join whatever program it is and go on and crush it, right? But the reason why people aren't clear on it is because they subconsciously know that the commitments that they've made to themselves in the past, they haven't followed through on it, and this is just going to be another one. Okay, so whether that's you, whether that isn't you, in the rest of the video, I'm going to give you guys my approach on how I do this, make this super tactical for you guys. So let's get into it. First off, here's a question that I asked one of my sales guys a little while ago, a couple of years ago. He was doing like 5-6 grand a month, and he was kind of like stuck at this range for maybe like 6, 7, 8 months, right? Like not making anything special, making okay money, month in, month out. He's kind of hovering around this range, right? And we had a quarterly meeting, and we were talking about his goals. And he was someone who wanted to get to 10 grand a month, wanted to get to 20 grand a month, but he wasn't really defined on it. He wasn't really clear on it. I asked him this question. I was like, let me ask you, like let's just say, right, like tomorrow your income gets cut in half for whatever reason. Tomorrow you go from making 5 grand a month to making 2 grand a month. Like, would you take different actions, or would you just keep doing like what you're currently doing? He's like, no, like I would probably wake up way earlier. I would do more dials. I would, start calling my follow-ups more. I would reach out to my no-shows. I would put in a lot more effort into every single conversation that I have, right? Because like at the end of the day, yeah, it makes sense. Like he has bills, he has shit to do, he has rent. He cannot afford to make less than 5 grand a month, right? And I'm like, okay, gotcha. So why aren't you doing all of that now? Right? And the reason why, it's a standards conversation, right? The way that, and this is what I've noticed consistently, right? Like going from like broke 19-year-old kid to being able to make my first 5K a month, to being able to cross 10K a month, being able to do 10K a month every single month, right? Breaking past the $20,000 a month mark, right? Once you're at 10 a month, you're doing pretty good for your age. You're surpassing a lot of the people around you. what do you tap into to get to that next level? Right? Going from salesperson now to business owner, to leader, right? Like there's certain levels and there's certain rungs on the ladder that you need to cross. And the thing is, the only way that you get to that next level each time, it's with a standards adjustment, right? It's when you make the goal, not just a goal, not just like a far-fetched, like hopefully I get it, but you make that your minimum standard, right? Let me explain what I mean. Exactly like in this case, right? If you get to a place where we're getting stuck at, 5, 6 grand a month, like that's just not acceptable for you. When you've thought about your goals and you've thought about everything that you want to do in your life and you're like, yo, like this is not acceptable. This is not okay. I need to get to a higher level, right? That's when you'll get to that higher level. You fall to the level of your standards. You don't rise to the level of your goals, right? So if you're pissed off, like if you can't get pissed off staying where you're at, then you're just going to stay there, right? If staying at 6 grand a month is something that you're okay with, then you're going to stay there, right? If you want to get to new levels, you have to make that your standard before you've even hit it. And then that's when you're going to start taking the actions necessary to actually go on and get it, right? I hope this is making sense, because this took me a couple years to really understand and get. The moment I started getting pissed off for where I was at, even knowing I was doing better than a lot of people around me, right? The moment I started getting pissed off and saying, no, like I know I'm capable of so much more. I know I can take this thing to another level. I know I have complete control over my fucking income, and the world is going through craziness right now. I know what I want to do for not only myself and my family, the people around me. I know the kind of lifestyle I'm trying to create, and I know when I want to do it. I need to fix up, right? That's when you start taking the actions necessary to actually go and hit levels that you've never hit before, right? When you make that standard adjustment first. Until you make it, get comfortable staying where you're at. Okay, so here's what I'd suggest that you do, because this is something that I did, and something that I do on like a quarterly basis, yearly basis. When I'm writing down my goals, like the number itself, honestly, is probably the least important thing, right? Like let's say, one of my first goals I had, right, was to clear 100 grand in a year. You write it down at the top of your piece of paper, right? Okay, make 100K a year by, the end of 2024, for example, right? Okay, great. You have to write down a few notes as to why, right? What are you going to be doing with that money? Like, what is it that you want out of that money? How is that going to change things for you? Are you going to get a new condo? Are you going to get a new car? Is there a certain investment goal that you want to create, right? Do you want a certain kind of lifestyle? Right? You need to write those things down, and those things need to be non-negotiables for you. You need to ask yourself, what are the things that are non-negotiable that I need to have in my life no matter what? If I don't have these things, it's going to be a major problem. You need to write those things down right up top. Those are the things that actually matter. The number itself, money, it's all fake anyways. They're printing it nonstop. It's the things that money is going to get you that are important. Those are the things that are going to light you up, fire you up, and get you pissed off because you don't have them yet, right? The thing with that number that you write down at the top of the page, whether it's 100 grand a year, whether it's $250,000 a year, whether it's $500,000 a year, I would recommend that you go annually, right? Because this allows you to, again, this puts a lot more pressure on you to go out and hit it, and allows you to put, like, with more time, gives you more control over the outcome, right? The thing with that number is that needs to be ambitious, but also attainable. Right? Like if you just got into sales and this is your first year and you say, yeah, I want to be making 50 grand a month by the end of this year, like that's really ambitious, but in most cases that's not going to be attainable, right? And then what happens is when you set one of those insanely ambitious goals, subconsciously you know that it's not actually possible, and then you don't take the actions necessary to go and get there, right? But then on the flip side, if you're just getting in and it's your first year in sales and you're like, yeah, my goal is I want to make $5,000 a month in the next 12 months, right? It's like, okay, but like, does that goal excite you? Like, does that get you to push your limits? Does that get you to step into a higher version of yourself? Or is that just a goal based on who you currently are today, right? The whole point of goal setting isn't necessarily striving towards a number, but it's striving towards the type of human being that you have to be to go and accomplish the things that you want. Okay, so let's get into that. First off, let's go tactical when it comes to the sales side of it, right? Because you need to know your numbers. Let's say you want to make 10K a month, right? Let's keep it simple. Let's say your goal is to make 10K a month, 120 a year. You want to break that down yearly, monthly, weekly, and daily, right? So you should know those numbers, frame by frame, right? You should know those numbers like metric by metric, right? So, okay, so the first thing that you want to do is break down the sales side of your goal. Okay, so you got to know your numbers, right? If you have a goal, right, you want to hit 120 grand by the end of the year, 10K a month. What does that come out to? 2,500 a week and just about $500 a day if you're working a 5-day work week. Okay, if you're like me and you're hustling, you're trying to get to your goals, you're doing 6.5, 7 days a week, right? Let's call it 5 days a week just to be safe. So you need to get to a place where you're making $500 a day, right? You need to break down your goals into chunks. So this big, massive goal of making 120 grand a year, maybe the most you've ever made is 30, right? This big, massive goal of making 120 grand a year just got a lot more realistic. How can we make $500 a day and how can we do that consistently, right? Look at your current opportunity. Look at your current offer, right? Let's say, on a monthly average, I don't know, you're getting 40 book calls, right? You're getting 10 weekly, and you're getting 2 a day, right? Let's say you sell a $5,000 offer and you take a 5%, or sorry, you take a 10% commission on that, pretty standard, right? So basically, you need to be closing at a 50% rate to be able to hit your goal, right? Okay, that's possible, but a 50% close rate is going to be really high, right? If this is your first year getting into sales, maybe your second year getting into sales, okay, I don't know if that's necessarily the best route to get to the goal, right? I think there's easier ways to go about this that are more in your control. So that's one way we can do it, right? So if you're getting 40 book calls a week, right? Yeah, you could close 1 out of every 2 and you'll hit that number. Or now we can add in other things, right? So we can add in your outbound calls, right? I had a conversation with one of my reps yesterday, right? What we concluded from a meeting, because usually every 2 weeks we sit down one-on-one, look at all the metrics, look at all the KPIs, plan out the next 2 weeks. What we found was that on outbound dials, for every 16 conversations he would close a 5K deal, right? For every 16, right? Now, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of dials, right? It was like, this was for about every 100 conversations. Sorry, for every 100 dials, he would have 16 conversations. Every 16 conversations, he would have one 5K deal, right? So now it's like we can get a lot more realistic about it, right? So let's say, you're getting these 2 book calls a day. Let's say you have access to a lead sheet where you can do outbound dials, call opt-ins, purchases, whatever. Cool. Now we've just created a day-to-day game plan, right? So there's 2 things that I would do here, right? Every single day, the goal is going to be 100 dials, non-negotiable. Okay, that is going to be your input equation. Alex Hormozi talks about something like this: is you want to figure out your input to output equation, and then you need to absolutely max out your inputs, right? So as a salesperson, your input equation is how many conversations do you have? How many offers do you actually make, right? As a salesperson, it is your job to, however possible, to max out the amount of conversations, pitches, and deals that you close, right? So non-negotiable, every single day is going to be 100 dials a day. The goal is going to be 16 conversations with 1 deal closed, right? One 5K deal closed, right? At the same time, you're getting your 2 bookings on a daily basis, right? So you're closing those as well. Now we just created a game plan where it would be unreasonable based on these metrics that you wouldn't be making $500 a day, right? On top of this, right? So there's inputs, right? We can look at inputs. Now, instead of thinking, I need to make 10K a month, I need to make 120K a year. Now we can just say, I need to make 100 dials a day, right? Now that goal becomes in your control. Where like, you're not even really thinking about the number anymore, but you've done the math, you've done the numbers. Now your entire focus and all of your energy is going towards those inputs. We can add in other inputs, right? For those of you closing right now, some of the other things that you could be doing, but you're probably not doing. One is follow-up, right? Every single deal that, is right there on the fence, but you lose, right? You don't text them back. You don't follow up with them. You expect them just to reach out to you weeks later. No, like you should have a whiteboard next to your desk or a piece of paper where you're talking about follow-ups later on this week, follow-ups later on this month, follow-ups later on this year, right? Every day, maybe you take 15 minutes just to text everyone, send them some value, send them some love, keep your pipeline going, make an extra 10, 20% more on your deals. I know some people who make like 50% of their money from follow-up, right? You could be following up, but you're probably not doing that. You could be redialing your no-shows, right? The leads who don't show up to the sales call, right? Over the course of, yesterday, a few weeks ago, whatever, you can be reaching out to them. You could be making content. You can be getting online. You can be self-sourcing your own opportunities, generating your own leads, right? So there's a lot of different inputs that you can do. Figure out what that is for you. Figure out your input-output equation, and then max out those inputs. Make the input the goal, not the output. Okay. Now, especially, so I think that's the first like ladder of the rung, right? Is like going from 0 to 10K a month is going to be all about inputs and work ethic, right? I was able to do pretty well. I was able to clear 10 grand a month without a lot of skill set, to be honest with you. There was a lot of closers around me at a higher level, but because of the attention to the inputs, because of the attention to the growth every single day, I was able to clear those kinds of numbers. You can get to 10 grand a month without being the best closer in the world, right? To get to 20, 30, it's going to be hard to do that just on inputs alone, right? So let's say you want to get to that next level. Now it's going to be skills, right? Now it's going to be developing certain skill sets that you actually have, right? So maybe, you realize that, okay, cool. I'm doing my 100 dials a day, right? I'm making my $500 daily. I'm clearing 10 grand a month. This is pretty good. Now you want to get to 20, right? How can we do that? Let's say you need to now increase your close rate, right? You need to close more people. You need to close more deals, right? Let's say at the end of the week, right? Let's say you have 10 bookings a week, just to be like super conservative, because that's pretty low, but whatever, we'll stick with that. 10 bookings a week. Let's say, 6 of them show up. Let's say you close 2 out of 6. And then let's say 2 out of 6 you close, 2 out of 6 weren't qualified, and the other 2 out of 6 they had objections, right? There was something that they objected to, and you weren't able to handle it, right? Let's say like you're getting the trust objection every single time, right? People are like, yeah, I just want to think about it. Whatever, I'll get back to you. I don't know if this is all going to work for me. I just need to go through some of your stuff and see if this makes sense. I just need to see if it's the right fit for me, blah, 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 right? All of that stuff is basically trust objections, right? So now your next step is locking in on the trust objection and spending every single day figuring out how you can become perfect with this objection. Right? You need to figure out how to master this objection, because this is going to net you an extra $1,000 every single week in commissions if you can figure it out just based on the numbers, right? Here's what a lot of people do though, right? Let's say, you take 40 book calls a week, right? Let's say you get 5 objections, or stick with these numbers. Let's say you get 6 objections that are a trust objection, and then let's say you get 2 objections that are like third party. Right? A lot of people will just focus on the third party objection, and they'll focus on, okay, how can I get better at handling the third party objection? How can I get better if they want to talk to their wife, right? No, you got to be tactical about this, right? You only have so many hours a day. You only have so much time that you can use to train, right? The higher ROI thing is going to be to work on the trust objection. Like, for example, like you can become a master at the wife objection. You can become perfect at it. You can train it every single day over the next few months. All of a sudden, boom, now every single time you get the wife objection, you close it, right? You have a 100% close rate on that. That's going to give you an extra 2 deals a month, right? If you become okay at the trust objection, if you become all right at that, and all of a sudden, instead of losing 6 deals, you only lose 3 and you close the other 3, now it's like, okay, great. You just became okay at it, and you're making more money than you would be mastering the trust objection, or mastering the wife objection rather, right? So this is the way that you got to look at your goals, right? Wrong number 1 is going to be your inputs, maxing out on your dials, your follow-ups, your redials, your conversations, getting as much people on the phone as humanly possible. Track your metrics. I'll tag another video on somewhere on the screen right now where you can learn how to actually track your metrics properly. Based on those metrics, figure out exactly what are the inputs that you need to put in to get the output that you want. After you do that, now it's a skill set thing, right? And it's figuring out what is the exact skill set that you need to develop to get to the next level. right? And then we translate this back into our daily actionables, right? So now if we get down to it, right, if we say, okay, our goal is to make 120K a year, our goal is to make 10K a month, 5K a week, 500 a day, right? The actionables that we're going to do to get there is 100 dials daily, 16 conversations, one deal closed, right? On top of that, another actionable that we're going to add to this is going to be skill development, right? We got to figure out how to deal with that trust objection, right? So 30 minutes a day call review, right? Every single day, 30 minutes, you're just going to listen to that trust objection. You're going to listen to where you lost it. You're going to write down notes. Okay, I could have said this. I could have said that. Maybe you'll spend 30 minutes a day going through sales training. Maybe you'll spend a little bit of time, shadowing, listening to some other closers. Maybe you'll listen to your closed deals, right? But you're going to make a daily commitment to do 30 minutes a day of skill development, right? Okay, great. Now imagine you do this every single day, non-negotiable, non-stop. You do that for a month. You do that for 2 months. You do that for 6 months. Now, whether you hit your goal of making 10K a month or not, one, you've committed to yourself that you can set a plan and follow through on it. And two, you've gotten way better at sales, right? I don't care what kind of money you're making. If you spend 3 months straight doing 100 dials a day, having 16 conversations, and every single day spending 30 minutes on call review, you are getting significantly better at sales. And everybody else who is naturally talented and they're lazy, they're not going to do this extra work because they're leaning on the talent, right? Now, let me add one more element to this, okay? Because this last section completely changed the trajectory of my sales career, okay? And that's getting locked in on the personal development side of this. You need to understand that, especially in sales and honestly in anything, one of our clients says this all the time. Your success will never surpass your personal development. Okay, your success, whether it's financially or whatever, it will never surpass the level of personal development that you do. Right, whatever that you want externally, right, the money, the success, the status, whatever, right, whatever you want externally, that's all going to come as a byproduct of the shit that you work on internally. Right, what you do behind closed doors, right? You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your standards, right? Your non-negotiables. We talked about your financial standards, right? Where you want to be, but how's everything else, right? What are your standards when it comes to fitness, right? I'm not saying just going in the gym every day. I'm not saying, well, rather, I'm not saying just showing up, right? I'm not saying doing 3, 5, sessions a week in the gym, but I'm saying like getting into peak fucking shape, right? I'm talking about like turning into an athlete, like getting to a place where you're ripped, you're jacked, you're in top 0.1% shape, right? Why not get into that? Like, why are you not doing that, right? That's going to be one of the things that is going to get you closer to your goals. When it comes to, figuring out your sleep, figuring out your diet, right? In sales, you're paid in proportion to your output, right? You are an athlete in a lot of ways. You have to be sharp. You have to be at 100% every single day if we're ever going to hit some of these goals, right? So figuring out your fitness, figuring out your sleep and your diet. When we go back to our non-negotiables, our daily tasks that we have to hit to go and get to these goals, we talked about inputs, right? Sales inputs. We talked about skill development. Now we got to talk about, the personal side, right? Like your physiology, right? Your fitness, your sleep, your diet. That needs to be at 10 out of 10, right? No excuses there. That needs to be locked in, dialed in. You can't break, right? What are you cutting out, right? Are you smoking weed 3 times a week? Are you drinking 4 or 5 times a week? Are you getting blackout wasted every week, right? Are you scrolling Instagram nonstop? Are you playing video games way too much? Like what are the things that you're doing that you need to cut out, right? Add that to your non-negotiable list, right? Add in reading, right? Every single day, taking 15 minutes, 30 minutes right before you go to bed to read a nonfiction book, to learn something, to take in some new pieces of information, right? So now all of a sudden we add that to the non-negotiables. We add the sales inputs, we add the skill development input. You're getting your fitness dialed, your sleep, your diet, you're reading something new every single day, you're cutting out all of the nonsense in your life. Again, you stay consistent with this shit. Like, I dare you to do that. I dare you to go to the gym for 6 days a week, read a book every day for 30 minutes, get your sleep down, your sleep schedule down perfect, and cut out all the vices in your life. I dare you to do that for a month straight and see what happens to your commissions. When I started getting serious about the personal development stuff, like literally when I did what I just explained to you, just gym every single day, sleep, diet solid, cutting all the vices, and just reading a book consistently. When I started doing that, like literally the next month I started making more money. And I'm like, oh shit, maybe I should just keep doing that. And then all of a sudden it compounds, right? You do all of these things for a month, 6 months, a year, 5 years, right? And then that's where the overnight success comes, right? Where it's like 5 years of grinding and then all of a sudden, boom, you're in a completely different scenario, right? You are not going to commit to any of these actions. Like I just broke it down step by step, right? The goal itself is, it comes as a byproduct of all of these actions. All of these actions are completely within your control. You make a decision every single day to do these things or not do these things. You make a decision one day to be like, oh, it's all good. I'm just not going to do these things today for whatever reason, right? And then the next day you do the same thing. And then you keep making excuses and you keep negotiating with yourself to settle for less, right? That is completely in your control, right? And that's what separates the winners from the losers, right? Is the commitment to the daily actions. The thing is you will not make a commitment to these daily actions if you don't reset your standards that you have for yourself, right? And this goes back to the first thing that we were talking about, right? When you say you want to make 10 grand a month, why? Why is it so important to you, right? How long have you been in the same position, making the same amount of money, and you've settled for it, right? Most people, what happens is they're not comfortable where they're at. They're not comfortable making the kind of money that they want to make. And then they justify to themselves and they convince themselves that it's not that bad. They figure out how to get comfortable with it. My challenge to you would be to get uncomfortable about it, get pissed off about it, right? Lean into it, like use pain as a motivator, right? Get to that place where it's like you're just so fed up with staying in the exact same position that you can't stand doing anything less than hitting your goals, right? Once you get to that place, now all of these inputs, you're just going to do them because you understand what needs to happen to get there. And then it's just a matter of time before you start hitting your numbers. Big takeaways here is that your goals are a byproduct of your inputs, right? Whenever you're thinking goal, whenever you're thinking, I want X output, okay? Ask yourself, what are the daily actions that I need to take that if I took them and if I did it every single day nonstop, it would be completely unreasonable for me to not hit those goals, right? Take those actions, write them down on a piece of paper, right? And then now make a commitment to follow through on it no matter what, right? Do those things, guys. 99% of people won't, but this is the cheat code. This is how you take control of whatever it is that you want in life. And the thing is, like I said at the start of this video, like I used to think goal setting and all of that, I would be like, yeah, well, there's a lot of things that are outside of my control, right? I would say it comes down to the lead flow. It comes down to this. It comes down to that. There's certain things that I can't control that are going to affect my goals, right? So I wouldn't set these goals as intentionally, right? What happened is I was stuck there for a couple of years. Once I started locking in on all this stuff, I started focusing on every single thing that was within my control. And I started maxing those things out. All of a sudden, I hit my first $100,000 a year before I turned 20, right? All of a sudden, I started increasing my commissions. All of a sudden, I would notice an area of weakness in my skill set. I would make a commitment. Okay, my goal in the next 3 months, I want to turn this weakness into a strength. I would write down, okay, these are the daily actionables that I need to take to fix this problem. And then all of a sudden I turn that weakness into a strength. And then what happens is it's this crazy upward spiral where the more goals that you set and you hit, you just achieve this crazy confidence in yourself that you can do whatever the fuck you set your mind to. And then that's when you go and take over the world. That's when you go and create your dream life and do all the things that you want to do, is when you get into that momentum, right? So my challenge to you is when you hop off this video, think about what your goal is. I'm filming this video, mid-September 2024. We're going into Q4. Take a second, think about those goals, think about why it's important to you. Where do you want to be by January 1st of 2025, right? What does it look like? What's the output that you want? Okay, great. Take a minute. Think about all of the inputs that need to go in for you to get there, right? On the input side, on the skill set side, and then on the personal development side. Write those things down. And if that goal is important to you, you're going to execute on those daily inputs relentlessly. And let me know where you're at by the end of this year down in the comments below. All right. All right, cool, guys. That's it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got value from it. Hope you take action on a lot of this stuff. Before you go, we've been in the space now for about half a decade. Everything that we do in terms of sales training, we have documented into a 71 module sales training. We used to charge thousands of dollars for it. Now we actually just give it away for free because it's really easy for us to put together in a course. It takes us 2 seconds, and I understand what kind of value it'll give to a lot of you guys just starting out. Down below, you'll see a link for a free course. Fill in some information just so we know where to send it to. You'll get an email with some login information, and you're going to get access to everything that we've been training our salespeople for the last 5 years. That's helped dozens of closers get to a place where they're earning 6 figures in commissions or way more. Highly recommend you check that out, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.